Hello and welcome to the Coaching Podcast, Coaching for Success in Sport and Business. Your host is Emma Doyle, the energy and high performance under pressure coach who is a world leader in unleashing human potential. Buckle up for this high octane session. Let 'em have it, coach.
G'day everybody and welcome to the Coaching Podcast. Just a quick shout out to one of our sponsors, Paperbell. It's a new tool that powers your online coaching business. Paperbell handles your payments, your appointment scheduling, sending files to your clients, contract signing, and much more. You can get started with a free account at paperbell.com/podcast. That's paperbell.com/podcast. Let's get into the show. G'day everybody and welcome to the Coaching Podcast. My name's Emma Doyle and I have the pleasure of interviewing, now I can actually say, a fellow author, Uros Budimac. Thank you so much for being on the show and welcome.
Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you for having me. And I really look forward to our chat today.
Absolutely. So Uros is a Tennis Canada high performance level 3 coach, which I actually really respect that because I know how hard being a level 3 coach is in Australia. And I know that the Canadian system is very similar to the Australian system.
Absolutely.
He's also certified with the USPTA and the Spanish Tennis Registry, over 20 years of coaching experience. And he's got a wealth of knowledge, especially as it relates to coaching all levels of players. But specifically, I have his book in my hand, which is called Mine. Very clever there. I like that. Reminds me of Finding Nemo a little bit as well. Catchy. And it's an illustrated guide to women's doubles. He was a national level player in Serbia, followed by a US scholarship, and now residing in Vancouver, Canada. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. So I am going to ask you our first question. You are a man of the world. Have you tried Vegemite?
I must say I have. Now, being a kid that grew up in Europe and Serbia and Germany, and it wasn't my favorite when I tried it. I have to be honest. I grew up with Nutella. So have you tried Nutella?
Yes, of course. Very, very different.
Exactly. So, I was coaching for a while, a top Canadian wheelchair tennis player, and she had roots in Australia. So she kept telling me, Vegemite. And so I tried it once and it did not sit with me. Like I said, you grow up with Nutella, you grow up with butter and Nutella on bread, not just, Vegemite. So I'm sorry to say, I'm not a big fan.
Because you answered that way, can you tell us a coaching moment that didn't go so well and what might be a lesson or two?
I thought of this for a while. And, for me, when things don't go well is when someone doesn't show up. And, I had the pleasure of working myself as a coach for a long time, but also working with other coaches and players as well. And when things don't go right and someone just doesn't show up for the day, is when things crumble. So I had a moment a few weeks ago. We did an event, and I had an assistant coach working with me, and all of a sudden the women who were working with him, because they were in a different facility, come running over to me and they go, Uros, he left. And I'm going, what do you mean he left? They go, he just packed up his bag, he's gone. So, and that was a moment for me, like a blocking moment. And we were the only two coaches working with, 12 players, 12 women who were playing doubles. And I'm going, what's going on now? And anyway, so we ended up resolving it. And I in a way, secretly enjoy that situation where something's really challenging. And you're going, oh, what am I going to do now? And, the next minute seems like 15 minutes, but your brain's just going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? How am I going to deal with this? Because two facilities, everybody's expecting a coach, everyone's expecting instruction. So that was definitely a blunder that I didn't enjoy as much, but, it ended up working well because all the women were friends and they got together and we moved on.
Okay. I like that. So I'm thinking about the lesson in that story. Around getting on the same page with your staff and meeting expectations. I've got one of my favorite definitions of conflict is expectation divided by reality equals conflict. And especially when you're dealing with groups of adults, I think that's really important to set those expectations and then obviously exceed them would be. That's
Absolutely.
That's what came to mind. Does that resonate?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because you have an expectation that things are going to go great. Because what could really go wrong? You're at a beautiful resort playing some tennis. You're going to have a wine tasting later. You're going to have a dinner together, and all of a sudden, something just majorly like that happens. So, I think it goes back to the fact that, we as coaches, we have to deal with whatever it is that we're thrown at, and setting those expectations with your staff and others, is important, and just making sure that we're there, and we are going to get a. Hold on. Are you okay there? Because I got a notification from Zoom here that I'm signed out, but we're okay still here. Yeah.
Yep. No worries.
Yeah. I apologize. Yeah. So, we're going to get.
Hang on 2 seconds.
And we're going to get that challenging situation where something happens to us as a coach, whether it's you or your assistant and so forth. But, we have to be able to deal with it. And, students have the right to ask any question they'd like. We have to find a way to get that answer back to them.
Yeah, agile flexibility. What about on the flip side, a coaching moment that went really well and what might be a lesson?
It happens every day, thankfully. I love when I'm coaching. I love when I'm out there working with players and students of all levels. And, just yesterday it happened, and it happens, thankfully, quite often where, I'm working with a player. This girl came for a lesson. It was our first one-on-one lesson, actually. And all of a sudden someone is finding a challenge with her backhand, which is like a cross-court rally, can't hit it, and all of a sudden, like, there's feedback, mutual back and forth. And then she hits it. And you both look at each other and you go, that's it, and her face lights up. I get goosebumps now. And, and that's that moment of breakthrough when you're going, oh, that's it. There's many moments like that, thankfully. And, that's something that you always search for, every lesson, every student, everybody's different, everyone's unique. So you got to find a way of creating that for them as well as for yourself. Because, we do it because we love what we do.
Yeah, I love that story, because you never know what's going to work for somebody. And I had success recently, and I did this both on the tennis court and off the tennis court, where we were struggling with something, and I just went to the complete opposite of that. So if it was backhand, cross court depth, we went to then hitting like short court, like drop shot style cross court, like this, alley to alley. I nearly said tramline to tramliner.
I would have understood you.
Okay, thank you. And then off court, someone was really stuck on this issue that they were having with someone in the workplace. And we ended up just completely flipping the conversation and taking a different perspective of the conversation. And both technique worked really well, which is what I love about the podcast as well, because we get sport perspective and we get, business coaching perspective. What about our sliding doors question?
15 years ago, exactly. So 2008, 2007, 8. I was in a bit of a crossroads with my coaching career. And, at that point, I've been coaching for about 5 years. So I felt like I did my time. And I was looking at moving, and I thought of, I was going to get that working visa and go to Australia and maybe study some business, get a real job at one point in my life, so to speak. And
real job in inverted commas.
Right.
I love that. Yep.
Exactly. And at that time I was an assistant at a major country club here in Vancouver, and what ended up happening out of nowhere was that the director left. He just left and completely blindsided me. I had no idea, and I was 23 at that time. And and people ask me, "Oh, are you going to apply for the job?" And I go, "No, not really. Like, my mindset was set to go somewhere else outside of Canada, travel the world, do something else, really." And then I was encouraged to apply, and then I said, "Okay, you know what? This does sound like a good opportunity, and if I'm going to go through the process." I devoted myself to it, and then I said, if I get this job, and it was highly unlikely, really, that I was going to get it. In my mind, at that point, I felt like it was a learning experience for me to go through the process. But I said, if I get the job, I'm going to stay in Vancouver, and if I don't, I'm out of here. And and it was literally like, we're waiting to see like what's going to happen, getting the job or leaving the country. And I got the job, and I stayed there, and I was there at that club for 7-8 years. So, and it was a great run. So that definitely changed course for me. And similar thing happened again. 5-6 years ago, I was leaving the tennis industry. I left, went to Austria for a few months, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, I'm back in Vancouver, back at a country club. It pulls me back into it, and I've given up at this point. Like, this is it. This is my life.
Yeah. What do you love most about coaching in Canada?
Coaching in Canada. What I love coaching in Canada is that you can work with everyone at every level and take it really seriously. You know, like coming from Serbia or Europe, a lot of times, like you know, unless you're a high performance junior, you know, you're a recreational level player, and who cares about you? Whereas in Canada here, you know, you have a league, you have multiple divisions within tournaments. You have, you know, men's league, women's league, mixed tournaments for, you know, adults of all levels, and I particularly like that. And you know, I've been lucky enough to be in good environments where, you know, I have my own setup as far as coaching, my hours, the systems and the protocols that are in place. And so there's a lot of freedom that's associated to it as well from my end.
In 1 to a maximum of 3 words, what makes a great coach?
Okay, so I thought of this one. The first thing that came to mind was patience. Patience. Definitely, you know, it takes time to develop a player of any age level, ability, and so forth. It takes time, it takes patience. You know, and then at the same time, while I'm thinking of that, you know, sure, that takes patience, takes, you know, big picture, small, you know, details, big picture, and so forth. But really, what it really comes down to, I think, in my mind, is the ability to individualize your coaching. So, you know, if I'm working with you, Emma, it's going to be a very different lesson to, you know, working with my wife, or, you know, working with a friend. Like everyone, like, you know, coaching the person. And you know, you see some coaches just coaching tennis. They're coaching their stuff. They're coaching their material. This is their forehand. This is their back. And this is how you do this. And of course, there's some, you know, generalities that are very much, you know, accepted across the board biomechanically and so forth. And, you know, the structure of a lesson, and that's fine. But it really comes down to working with the player, with the person, finding a way to get through to them based on their personality, their habits, their, you know, their current level of play and so forth. So I think that would be the main one. Can you individualize your coaching?
So patience and individualization. How about that?
There you go. Perfect.
Those 2 words. You happy with that? Okay.
Well summed up.
Okay. Okay. We Frank Giampolo the other day, I asked him and he said customization, customization, and customization, which was very cheeky. But I like that it's along the same lines of what you just said there. And certainly
Absolutely.
It's not, you know, a lot of the times coaches say that they are player centered, and they're putting the person in the center of their world and their universe. More of a buzz phrase that's been around for a long time now, but people say that they do it, but I don't know whether sometimes they make the real effort to do it, especially if you've got a group of 8 ladies and you're covering both courts and you've set up a learning environment. It's still important then to be able to find what each person needs based on what they need and what they want. I think it's something that it's like every day, it's hard work. What do you think?
Absolutely is, you know, and I mean, that's what keeps us engaged as coaches and involved. And if it was just easy, you know, you'd stop and go and do something else, I think, at one point or another. It's what keeps me coming back, like, because, you know, yes, you know, and maybe, you know, one person needs something else than someone else's, you know, technique or whatever it is that you're trying to execute. But then there's also, you know, the person itself, like, you know, am I going to go, come on, Emma, you can do this, come on, you know, like, you know, get your feet there or whatever, in a different tone of voice, versus maybe another person on that same court can't take that coaching style, is going to go, and I'm going to go more, oh, you know, Tiffany, you know, what happened there? Right. And so, you know, it's that approach to how you're coaching someone, as well as, you know, what it is that each person needs on the court. So, yeah, it's definitely exciting. And, you know, if you're dealing with a group, you know, your senses have to be all turned on, and there's no time for a break. But, you know, that I really like that about coaching.
Yeah. And I know that you've had some mentorship from Wayne Elderton and Louis Cayer, and Louis on the podcast, he said, and I'll never forget this, it's one of our first episodes on the podcast, he said, we teach people tennis, not tennis to people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there was a little comma in there, even though I didn't say comma out loud. The way he said it was, but we'll talk maybe more about mentors after our last official question, which is where we ask you to ask us a question. Which,
you know, for me, it's about balancing. It's a balancing act, you know, because as coaches, we love so much what we do, it almost turns into our life. And often, you know, it is a life. And then also, you know, there's the personal life as well. And So it's, often I'm curious about how people balance their own time, their such a big passion for what we do, as well as with just home time and being able to shut off that coaching mind, because we do need a break as well, even though as much as we love it, So how do you find your balance, Emma?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I've got two thoughts for you on that. I've really been exploring that concept lately, especially as it relates to the hybrid workplace, because I'm doing a lot more corporate coaching these days. And people are not only working from home, they're also doing their laundry, they're also getting food ready. And so, but the computer's always there, or the office is always there. And we've had a couple of people on the podcast as well, like Gabe Jamillo. He said, well, it doesn't exist, balance. And I've been exploring two reframes on the word balance. One, work-life integration, and the other one is work-life rhythm. Because there will be times, as you know, say at a country club where pre-season is going to be crazy busy, getting everyone registered and organized and where they're going to go, etc. And then there's obviously the time when you can completely, the rhythm's going to be a lot slower. So I've just been exploring those rather than giving myself a hard time for having no balance. So I'm on the reframe train at the moment. What are your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, no, I mean, it's cyclical, right? And so we can find those times when we can, engage more and a little bit less. And I spoke to another coach recently about that, and he said to me, he goes, but Uros, it's almost impossible to find balance and do what we do. He's also a fellow coach and a leader at a big club here, and he goes, like, it's impossible to be able to give yourself so much time with everything in your life, your friends, your family, your alone time, your work time. Like, he goes, something has to give amongst all those pillars, and then for something else to be able to be is highly developed. And so he said, forget trying to find balance, and I'm still looking for balance. so thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. What you said, that was good. Definitely. Yeah.
Well, coaches out there, please, we'd love your feedback on what your definition of work-life balance is. It's definitely a very demanding job being a coach, because when we do put the player at the center of our learning, all our energy for that time, and even this podcasting time right now, I don't have my phone as a distraction. I'm completely 100% with you. I mean, what greatest job in the world? I just get to talk to coaches. I mean,
thank you. But that's the greatest gift, right? Like, being here right now for both of us. So it's great. Present.
Yeah. And I actually block out my entire face on the screen. So that I can be even more just, you're the only thing I can see. So I love that. I do that often when I coach people as well, because we can get so distracted by,
yes, how am I moving, how am I doing this, how am I
on the Zoom? Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go back to your early playing days. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you grew up in Germany, but then you're a national level Serbian player, and then you got a US college scholarship. So can you talk me through that journey?
Definitely, yes. I started up in Germany. My mom had a job as a teacher there, so when I was 8 years old or so, I was that era of Boris Becker, Steffi Graf, Michael Stich, all the German top players, and then you also had the Yugoslavian old players. So Croatians were quite big at that time, Ivanišević and so forth. And so I as a kid, I really related to it. I loved watching it on TV, and so yeah, I started tennis there, and I just absolutely loved it. Once or twice a week, and then we moved to Serbia when I was 10 years old, and that's when my doors really opened up, because I could have a private lesson every day. They were a fraction of the cost than in Germany, so it was great because I could and it helped me get all my friends, all my social setting. Everything was at the club in my hometown, Sombor in Serbia, and all of spring, summer, early fall, I was basically living at the club. I was a little chubby growing up, so I wasn't the fastest around the court, but I had decent hands. And so, I was working on my game and developing, but I did have a lot of anxiety when it came to tournaments. So that was a really big hurdle for me growing up, all the way through when I was about 16 and I came to Canada. And that's when I started working with Wayne Elderton, who then introduced me a little bit to Dr. Jane Blur and so forth. And, I started really going, well, this is normal to be feeling anxious when you're competing. you got to find a way to channel this energy, because it came from so much care. I absolutely love tennis, right? So, anytime, anything I could do to be on the tennis court, really. And so yeah, and I really enjoyed my time when I came to Canada, working with Wayne and his team, and that's perhaps why I also really enjoy that psychological side of the game, because everyone that you're working with is struggling through something, some way or another. They're either overstimulated, understimulated, anxious, or they're just hitting the ball. They don't care where it goes. So you're always having to deal with some parameters and find, where is this person? Where could this person go? On the tennis court, but also in turn, as a person themselves, are they just attacking every time that they can, touch the ball? And, how does that relate to their life? My story then continued here in Canada, working, and I probably played my best tennis when I was about 18, 19, after, really recognizing the work that I have to put in, fitness-wise, on court, off court, recovery, and so forth. And, that's when I went to the US, and I played on a scholarship, decided to come back. I really wasn't enjoying the environment where I was at that time. I was away from my family, friends, again, because we just moved from Serbia. So I decided to come back to Vancouver and then just really devote myself to coaching quite young. So at almost 19 years old, I just started coaching and really wanted to then take that seriously and take the player mindset into coaching.
You and I have a similar journey in that respect, from coaching from such a young age. And so in the book here, I'm dedicating this book to love, which is also a nice play on words, because it builds confidence and trust, and it can make miracles happen. Here's to embracing mistakes, being present, accepting challenges, being patient with yourself, having difficult conversations, challenging yourself, and enjoying the journey. Now, hang on, there's nothing here that's about the continental grip. What this is a tennis book. I love those. I love those things. So talk to me about some of those philosophies. Were they influenced by mentors? How did you come up with each of those sentences? That's why I wanted to read them out. Resonate really with me on every level of business coaching, sports coaching, any sort of coaching. Where do they come from? How did you develop those types of philosophies?
The road isn't straight, road of improvement. Whether it's the road in life, whether it's the road on the tennis court, whether it's, with whatever we're going through, school, work, anything, there's going to be challenges. There's going to be mistakes. We're not going to be in the present moment. And so all of that really, for me, summed it up as, how can I sum up a journey of someone developing as a tennis player? And, as I was writing that, it was the early stage of, the first year of COVID and so forth. And I just wanted to bring something to everyone that they can hold on to and just process and understand that, hey, you know what? It isn't a perfect straight line. It's not I call it, perfect world out there. When you're on the court, no matter what you're going through, you are going to have to work on it. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be times when you want to give up. There's going to be times when, nothing's working. Everything's going against you. It comes back to, why are you doing it? Do you really love it? And that's why, I dedicated it to love, because, you really comes down to you loving it. And so, tennis, as in tennis, as in life, because you can't fake it. You can't fake it on a tennis court. And you can fake it in life maybe for a little bit, but that only goes so far.
So staying on the book for a minute, I'm also very happy to see that on page 90, you've got in there the Australian formation, just to be able to mix it up and always show your partner something different. We love that, because so many times, even watching the US Open at the moment, when they're doing the same formations, I'm like, what? Mix it up the minute you lose 2 or 3 points in a row. So I love that. How did you decide on these 20 scenarios within the book?
So, over my time of coaching, I found myself repeating quite often, the same concepts, or players would come out and ask me the same questions. And, you'd watch players, like you said, always going into that same 1 up, 1 back formation. 1 is left, 1 is right, 1 is right, 1 is left. And so, I try to summarize out of all my years of coaching, what are the most common things that I repeat myself on, and how does it fit into doubles, and how does it fit into women's doubles, especially because a huge percentage of my lessons have been in women's league or women's league doubles and teams and so forth. And it's often the question, where do I stand when my partner is serving, or where am I standing where, when she's returning, or, where am I focused on, or where am I, looking? Do I look back? Do I look forward? And so I put the 20 most common ones, and most of them are scenarios, but a couple of them are also just in a way lessons, like the one on breathing, where you just have to exhale and breathe, and to be in the present moment to be able to hit that ball properly. So I included that one because there's no lesson that goes by without me not mentioning breathing.
Connecting with the breath to help you stay in the present. I love that strategy. Any other quick tips on how to stay present?
I think to be in the present moment means to just be alert. And so if the mind is wandering, often the body is also not there. So, activating your feet, as well as just bringing your focus into your strings in front of you. Those are some things where you can stay in the present moment. But, I found the breathing to be the best, under pressure and under any sort of circumstance where you really need to perform at that moment.
There's another theme coming through reading the book around belief. Now, as coaches, we can often see greatness in others, but people can't often see it in themselves. How do you help bridge that gap as a coach?
And, that's so true, especially in the last few years. You see people believing less and less. Confidence has gone down with the increase of call it fake social media, everyone looking perfect, everyone on vacation all the time, being able to afford anything they want. People's confidence has gone down a lot, and our jobs as coaches has become more interesting that way, I would say. Because the belief isn't there. People don't believe in themselves quite often, and especially as they're aging as well. Someone goes, hey, I'm 45. What do you think I'm going to learn how to play tennis now? Yes, you will. It comes down to questioning and going. And when I say questioning, it's how did that feel? How did that feel? Was that one it? Or I go, okay, next time you hit the one that you really feel good about, stop and tell me, or say yes. Say yes when you hit the right one. Because all I'm trying to do is create success, right? Success, that brings confidence. So no matter how easy the skill is, whether it's mini tennis, all of a sudden cross-court backhand, because, from the baseline, we were not successful whatsoever. So, you're dumbing down the skill to the most basic component of it, where someone can feel success. And then they go, oh yeah, I can do this. And some people are easier to believe in themselves than others, because in so many aspects of their lives, maybe nothing's really working out for them. Whereas all of a sudden they come on the court and they leave after an hour and they go, wow, I actually improved. And so, sometimes they don't see themselves, but I make sure that they do see it. They find it, because I'm not letting them go unless they give me this is one that I hit that was really good.
Appreciate the reinforcement of focusing on somebody's strengths. In my book, the practice 2 is belief. And there's a section there where I simply ask coaches, what are your superpowers, or in the workplace, what are your strengths? And I was talking even a coach friend of mine who I completely, he's very confident and he's a really great coach, but he struggled to answer that, his 3 core strengths. So I think it's important that we do reflect on that. And the minute then he surveyed 5 of his inner circle, I was fortunate to be one of those inner circles, then he could easily see the through line. He's like, oh yeah, I am really good at that. So yeah, I love that focusing on the strengths. And then there are other coaches that you come across that really challenge you even on a deeper level. Now, let's go back to Wayne and Louis, 2 of Canada's great coaches. Tell me some things that they've taught you, and the importance of having a mentor.
Oh, huge importance, and I'll start with Wayne because he was the first one that I met, and through him I met Louis and had the pleasure of knowing both of them for just about 20 years now, which is wonderful. And I'm in regular touch with both of them still, and I consider them good friends as well. And I think with Wayne, it's definitely the optimism and the power of the positive reinforcement. You walk into Wayne's facility, you can hear Wayne laughing somewhere in the facility, somewhere on the 9 courts, he's out there. And, not to say that he's just a positive, optimistic coach. He's also extremely intense when it comes down to it. Because I remember as a junior, he would work me harder than I've ever been worked before on the court. But when it came down to it, it's a friendly, positive, encouraging environment with the ability to really zoom into, how do you develop that? It's that question and answer between two people. It's the coach and the student comes out for a lesson and you're going, what it is that you'd like to work on today? How was your last match? What are some positives from it, from some challenges and so forth? And then Louis was a hard ass, like when I was a junior, one of his one thing that I recall standing out so hard. He goes, he said something to me. I was at that time a player. I was just turning into a coach, and I hit something, and I gave him some sort of answer as to why I couldn't do what he was asking me to do. And he goes, "Uros, excuses are for losers." and literally, I never brought up an excuse again. I don't think ever in my life. And it's easy to find excuses, and it was a harsh message, but he knew I could take it. And that's the huge part with Louis, is because he knows who to press and how hard to press them, and he'll find a point of breaking, and then he'll loosen up a little bit. And when you're working with players or with other coaches, you gotta find the person's limit of where is it that now you got them engaged. The story of Louis walking out onto the court with two doubles players who were maybe top 100 in the world. He said, let's go 20 volleys back and forth, volley to volley, 1 foot over the net. They couldn't do it. He packed his bag up and left. He goes, when you guys can do this, call me. So things like that. I mean, it's just, these messages around coaching, are just huge. And just, I think it comes back down, if I can summarize, what I think about, with Louis and my greatest associations with him, is just that you have to find a way to really push your students, everyone, and again a little bit differently, listen to them, really find a way to simplify things, make it easy for them to improve, but you got to create that environment for them. You have to, as the coach, you're the leader of the court, you got to find that environment where they're performing at their maximum. And he's brilliant at that. It's just no one better ever to watch work than him. Have you ever had a chance to see or be with Louis on court?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I watched him once on the back courts in North Carolina working with some doubles teams, and I was like, oh my God, he was feeding the ball like he was feeding winners. I was like, that is hilarious. And talk about stretchy comfort zone. And that's why I even just love those two examples. You've got the power of positivity, and you've got find someone's threshold and push them to it, and then pull back, and then push them to it and pull back, which I love, that the concept of stretch the comfort zone each and every time you're out on court. So it's that fine balance, isn't it, between that positive and that stretch. So the question is, in 1 to a maximum of 3 words, what makes a great director of a club or a manager of a club? If you'd like to know Uros's answer to this question, you're going to have to wait until after this very short advertisement. The Coaching Podcast was brought to you by Paperbell. If you're anything like me, you might not be super tech savvy. Well, Paperbell powers your online coaching business. It does your payments, appointments, contract signing, client management, and so much more. It's dead simple to use and will give you so much relief and ease in your coaching practice. You send your clients one link and Paperbell does the rest for you. It's like having a VA that's there 24/7. It's a one-stop shop, so you don't have to worry about doing all the boring administration stuff, and you can do what you love to do. That is coaching. Get started with a free account at paperbell.com/podcast. That's paperbell.com/podcast. Check it out.
Emma, it's about the ability to see all of the pieces that are falling into the place of a club. So, there's so many different environments that you're dealing with and juggling at the same time. You're looking after yourself, first of all, as a person, as a coach and as a manager, you're having to find time for yourself to have your own time. Then you're dealing with the coaches, you're dealing with staff, who each individually have their own challenges as well. You're dealing with members, most likely, as at large. You're dealing with a tennis committee. You're dealing with a board of directors. You're dealing with a general manager or an athletic director, depending on your situation at the club. You're dealing with the plant and engineering department, the facilities. So there's the equipment. You're dealing with tournaments, leagues, lessons, programs. I mean, it's a giant world that happens at a small tennis club, so to speak. And very few people really understand how many moving parts there are to have a successful tennis program operating. And I think that just that ability to see all of them, juggle them all. And when I say juggle, I mean just not last minute pulling out, oh yeah, this. No. It's a matter of, do you have them all laid out in your mind, as well as hopefully somewhere where everybody can see them and share them with you. And are you able to devote your time to each and every one of them, and with a different approach, because you are speaking differently to the board of directors versus someone that's a new member that just walked into the door. They have different levels of understanding, different levels of play, different levels of sport, and potentially different interests completely. So it's just that that ability to do all those things, while at the same time, like I said at the start, maintain your own health and engagement and ability to be on the court and then off the court as well, in the office, performing. So
manage puzzle pieces.
Sorry, you asked for 3 words, didn't you? I don't think I've given you one 3-word answer that you asked me for.
That's why I'm the host. I get to summarize your brilliance.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you. But yes, you can cut out all the other pieces and just go this word, this word, this word.
There we go. Well, yeah. I'd like to just thank you for your energy and your smile. I'm sure everyone can feel that even through an audio podcast. I know that I would want to take a lesson off you.
Thank you.
I've got a young mentee from Australia that's looking to get experience from the best places in the world. I'm going to send him your way.
Please do.
Because I can feel your energy. I love your philosophies, and I really appreciate your time. And I admire anyone that puts a book together. Now I know what hard work that is. So congratulations on the book. That'll be in the show notes. So thank you for making me a better coach.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I tremendously enjoyed our little chat here, and I hope to do more of them, and maybe we see each other in person soon too. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thanks everyone for listening.
The Coaching Podcast is brought to you by your energy and high performance under pressure coach, Emma Doyle.